Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. The wind howled over the Montana cemetery like it had been sent to rip the grief right off his shoulders. Clint Rowley stood still, fists tight at his sides, dressed in a pressed uniform that felt heavier than ever. The folded flag pressed into his arm like a brick. His father's casket lowered inch by inch into the cold, dry earth. He did not cry. He could not. That part of him had died years ago in a place no one could pronounce, during a war most people forgot after the headlines passed. Lacy stood beside him, sunglasses hiding eyes that had not looked at him the same since he came home. Her red nails dug into the black clutch she clung to like it was keeping her grounded. She leaned in, close enough to smell the cherry gum she always chewed when nervous. Then she whispered, "Too bad your dad died thinking you were a failure." Clint did not move, not even a blink. The priest kept speaking. Dirt Hitwood. Family sniffled behind them. Clint stared straight ahead. "Say something," she said softly, still close to his ear. "Anything." He stayed silent. She scoffed, stepped back. The moment passed. The lie of peace resumed. But something cracked. It was not the insult. It was not even the betrayal. It was the rehearsed tone in her voice, the performance. That was not a slip. That was precision. Calculated. Like she had practiced it in the mirror. And who rehearses a knife like that? Later that night, as Clint sat alone in his father's cabin flipping through funeral cards and half-wilted flowers, he pulled out his old Army-issue notebook. He wrote one line. She just made her first move. But what was her game? Wait, let me speak to you from the heart. I pour my soul into every single story you hear. The late nights, the edits, the voiceovers. This isn't just content to me. This is my purpose. But here's the truth. Out of 1,000 viewers, barely a handful actually subscribe. And that hurts, not because of numbers, but because I know many of you feel these stories the way I do. The house smelled like vanilla and deceit. Clint dropped the folded flag on the kitchen counter. Lacy was already inside, barefoot, sipping red wine like nothing had happened. She wore a silky black dress, too short for a funeral, too expensive for their budget. "You look stiff up there," she said, turning to him with a smirk. "Like your emotions were locked in a safe." He ignored her. Her fingers touched his shoulder. He barely felt them. He looked at the flag. Cleanly folded. Perfect angles. "I think I will take a shower," he said. "Want company?" she teased, stepping closer. Clint turned. "Did you mean what you said at the funeral?" Her eyes flickered. "What do you mean?" "You said I was a failure." Right after the casket dropped. Lacy laughed. Too quickly. "Oh, come on. It was the stress. I did not mean it." He nodded once. Slow. "You think I am stupid, Lacy?" "Clint," he raised a hand. "No. Just answer me. Do you think I am stupid?" She stepped back. Her wine glass trembled slightly. "You are being paranoid again. This is what I meant. You get all intense. I was trying to help you feel something." He walked past her. Upstairs. Into their bedroom. The sheets smelled like cologne. Not his. Expensive. Musky. He opened his drawer. The letters he had mailed home during deployment were there. Still sealed. Unopened. All of them. He stared for a long moment. Then reached under the bed where he had once hidden his deployment gear. Pulled out the old GoPro, the tiny GPS tracker, and the unused bug mic. His hands moved without hesitation. War taught him one thing. Never react loud. React smart. He looked at the photo of them on the nightstand. Her hand on his chest. His smile half alive. "This house is not my home anymore," he whispered. "It is an operation now." He planted the tracker under her SUV at 3:12 a.m. Clean. Quiet. Snow falling like confetti over bad decisions. Clint's heartbeat never spiked. His breath stayed steady. Movements precise. The next morning, Lacy kissed him on the cheek before heading to her meeting. She wore red lipstick, something she had stopped doing around him months ago. The GPS pinged her car driving 12.6 miles west, parked at a residential address he had never heard of. He followed. From a safe distance, he watched her pull into a gated driveway. Security cameras. Audi parked outside. She stepped out, fixed her hair in the mirror, and rang the doorbell. The man who answered wore a white dress, shirt unbuttoned at the top. Slick hair, clean shave, gold watch. They kissed. Not subtle, not hidden. Clint blinked once, pulled out his phone, started recording. Get the plates, he muttered to himself. He zoomed, caught the license plate of the Audi, then the street signs, then her smile. They went inside. The door shut. He sat in the truck. Time passed. The snow kept falling. After 1 hour and 42 minutes, she left, smiling. He followed her all the way to the grocery store where she bought chicken, eggs, and 2 bottles of Merlot. At home, she cooked, acted normal, kissed him again. He said nothing, ate the chicken, washed the dishes. Later, she laid in bed scrolling through her phone. He stared at the ceiling. He could still smell that cologne. Expensive. Imported. She had not even tried to wash it off. Clint closed his eyes and replayed every single mission that ever went sideways because someone got too emotional. Not him. He would not scream. He would watch. Record. Break. And when he moved, it would be the last move anyone saw coming. The letters were still in perfect condition. Clint sat at the kitchen table, lining them up like evidence. 32 envelopes. Handwritten. Numbered. Dated from bases across Syria and Afghanistan. Some smelled like diesel. Others still had sand tucked in the corners. Every single one was sealed. He picked up the first letter. Wrote it during the sandstorm outside FOB Knox, right after his squad lost 2 men. He remembered every line. He wrote about nightmares, not sleeping, missing her voice. About how she was his anchor. She had never even opened them. He felt nothing. Not rage. Not sadness. Just an eerie clarity, like he had been pulled above water for the first time in years. There was a sound, her phone buzzing on the counter. Lacy had left it charging. She was upstairs, singing softly in the shower. A love song she never sang for him anymore. Clint walked to the phone. No hesitation. The screen lit up. Troy, can't stop thinking about your mouth last night. Another text. Meet again Thursday? Same place. I'll bring the wine if you bring that dress. He scrolled. Photos. Messages. Voice notes. She had been careful, but not smart. One video, her moaning softly, whispering his name. Not Clint's. He sent every file to a backup drive. No drama. No noise. Then he placed her phone back, exactly where it had been. When Lacy came down, towel on her head, she smiled like nothing had changed. You doing okay? She asked. Clint nodded once. I'm doing great, he said. Really great. She kissed his cheek and walked away. He looked back at the letters. He did not write them for her anymore. They were going to help bury her. Clint watched the dot move across his screen like it owed him answers. Thursday came. Just like the text promised. Her SUV pulled out of the driveway at 6:27 p.m. sharp. Hair done. Heels on. Red dress, that red dress. The one she wore on their 3rd anniversary. He trailed her from 5 cars back. Headlights off. Tires quiet. Montana roads were easy to disappear into. The GPS tracker led him to a familiar part of town, an upper-end gated community behind stone walls and coded entry. She entered with the gate code. Clint parked 1 block down and walked. The air was sharp. Snow crunched under boots he had not worn since deployment. He climbed the fence like it was nothing. Window lights flickered in one of the houses. He crouched behind the hedges. There she was, in the kitchen, pouring wine into 2 glasses. Then he walked in Troy. Hair slicked back, shirt off, hand already on her waist. They danced, laughed, kissed. Clint watched it all through a zoom lens. The light from their kitchen glowing just clouds, the kind that held storms. He did not feel like a man anymore. He felt like a mission, and missions do not flinch. Saturday afternoon, Lacy wore tight jeans, a cream blouse, and lipstick that screamed, "Look at me." I have to help with a luxury open house, she said. Troy wants the place ready by 3. Clint smiled. Need help? She paused for just half a second. That was all he needed. No, baby, she said with a chuckle. You would be bored out of your mind. She left in a hurry. At 2:47 p.m., Clint was already parked across the street from the supposed open house, an upscale modern home with a for sale sign and not a single car out front except hers and Troy's. No banners. No people. No foot traffic. He grabbed the GoPro from the dash, took video of the outside, walked past the windows with his phone raised casually. Through the glass, he saw them, again. No suits. No buyers. Just her, barefoot, sipping wine, sitting in Troy's lap like she belonged there. He knocked. Silence. Then Troy opened the door halfway, confused. Can I help you? Troy asked. Yeah, Clint said coolly. I'm interested in the property. Lacy's face flashed in the background, panic exploding behind her eyes. Troy looked over his shoulder. Sorry, private showing. Clint nodded. No problem. He walked away, calm, silent. In his truck, he whispered to himself. That was strike 3. He hit the record button, said the date, the time, address, Troy's name, Lacy's reaction. This was not jealousy. This was evidence. And soon, it would be public. Sunday dinner was quiet, too quiet. Clint watched her across the table. Lacy poured wine with hands too steady for someone who had been caught lying 100 ways. She made spaghetti, garlic bread, her version of comfort food, like it could fix the crack in the floor beneath them. So, she said, spinning pasta on her fork, how are you doing? Really? He nodded. Fine. You have been different lately. How so? Lacy leaned forward slightly, lips tight. Colder. Like, distant. Maybe it is the grief. Or maybe it is the war catching up to you again. Clint's jaw locked. There it was, her favorite weapon. She had pulled the veteran card again, the invisible PTSD script. She had used it in front of their friends last fall when he refused to go to her cousin's wedding. Claimed he could not handle crowds. That he was unstable. You think I need help? Clint asked. I think you have been through a lot, she said sweetly. And it is okay if you are not all there anymore. He set down his fork, hard. You ever think maybe I am exactly the same, and you are the one who changed? She blinked. That hesitation again. You are making something out of nothing, she said. You always do this. He leaned in just a little. Eyes steady. Where were you Thursday night? Lacy stiffened. Her wine glass paused at her lips. I already told you. I was with Troy. We were staging a house. He is my boss, Clint. Do you usually sit on your boss's lap while staging a listing? Her glass hit the table. That is enough. Clint stood up, calm. Not even close. Clint opened the garage. Cold air rushed in like a warning. He walked past the lawnmower, the fishing rods, and pulled down the overhead compartment he had not touched since returning home. His old duffel sat there, still zipped tight. Inside, a digital recorder, an encrypted flash drive, an SD card reader, and a case of body cam gear still sealed from the last rotation. He had never intended to use this stuff again, not on U.S. soil. But betrayal was a battlefield too. He cleared the workbench, plugged in the recorder, and started tagging the files he had already collected. Date, time, location, every kiss, every lie, every voice note, every photo of Lacy with Troy, unaware of the lens watching them. This was not about catching her anymore. He had done that. This was about building a case, one strong enough to survive court, smear her publicly, and leave no room for her to spin it. He called an old friend, Marcos, a former intelligence analyst now running a security firm 2 towns over. I need someone who does digital cleanup, Clint said. Legal-grade formatting. Quiet. No leaks. You in trouble? No, Clint said. But she is. He transferred the footage. Gave Marcos the address, plate numbers, text logs, timestamps. What are you planning? Marcos asked. Nothing illegal. Nothing stupid. You always this calm when someone spits on your name? Clint looked out the window. Snow still falling. Her car just pulled up. I was a sniper for 9 years, he said. I do not move until the shot matters. Then he hung up. He slipped the body cam into his shirt collar. Tonight, he would bait her. And he would catch everything. She was already in bed when he came upstairs. Phone in hand. Screen brightness turned low. Face glowing with the lies she thought were private. Clint sat on the edge of the bed and pulled off his boots slowly. Lacy looked up. Everything all right? Yeah. She paused. You are being quiet again. Clint smiled faintly. Thinking a lot. She leaned in. About what? You. Us. The future. She smiled. That sounds hopeful. Maybe. His tone stayed neutral. Measured. Every angle of his body cam caught her expression, too relaxed for someone guilty. But he knew now. She was past guilt. She had crossed into comfort. She thought she had him outnumbered. Outplayed. You know I still love you, right? She said. He raised an eyebrow. You do? He asked softly. Of course. I just think. The war made you harder to connect with. And your dad passing. It is a lot. You are not failing, Clint. You just need to heal. His knuckles curled under the sheets. Not from anger. From control. She had weaponized the one thing he could never fight, sympathy. Maybe you are right, he said. She leaned in and kissed him. Soft. Mechanical. He kissed back. Not with passion, but precision. Then said, You know what I miss? Those nights we stayed up talking until 2 a.m. Just us. Nothing fake. She smiled. We can do that again. Let's talk then, Clint said. Tell me about Troy. Her face dropped. Silent. Flat. He saw it in her eyes, a flicker of panic. I told you. He is just, I have seen you kiss him. She went pale. He clicked the remote. The TV lit up, security cam footage frozen on her and Troy. Inches from each other. No sound. No excuse. Just the truth. And her silence screamed the loudest. At 2:11 a.m., Clint heard the creak. He had memorized every sound in that house. The way the pipes moaned when the water kicked on. How the fridge made a quiet hum right before defrosting. But this sound, footsteps over tile, was not familiar. He kept still, let his breathing slow. Lacy was out of bed, barefoot. He heard the kitchen drawer open, then close. He slipped out behind her like a shadow. She stood by the sink, whispering on speakerphone. Voice low. Words sharper than glass. You do not get to panic now, Troy, she hissed. He knows. He showed me footage tonight. Clint leaned against the hallway wall. Just close enough to hear. Just far enough to stay invisible. I do not know. Maybe someone saw us. Maybe that dumb vet has friends still watching him. Just stay quiet. I will handle it. Silence. Then, no. He will not go public. He is too proud. He cannot even say the word divorce. Trust me, I will spin it. She ended the call. Poured herself a drink. Just like that. Come again. Clint backed away, back to bed, heart not racing, but mind locked in. She was not just cheating. She was calculating. He laid back down. Waited. Minutes later, she returned. Slid under the sheets like nothing had happened. I could not sleep, she whispered. Needed water. Clint said nothing. He turned away from her. But his mind was screaming, she thinks I am a coward. And that was her final mistake. Clint sat across from the attorney, arms folded, body still. Your name's already been submitted by her, the lawyer said, flipping through the folder. Lacy Rowley. She filed for divorce first. Clint smirked. She did. Yep. Claimed abandonment. Emotional instability. Said you were unwell. She beat me to it. Well, she tried. But the good news is, you already filed 2 weeks before her. With the cleaner paper trail. Clint nodded slowly. The lawyer continued. I checked the filings. She lied on the form. Said you had been gone from the house for over 6 months. That you threatened her. Which clearly you did not. I served 10 years in the military and never touched her. But I have evidence she touched someone else. Plenty of it, the lawyer said. This footage you sent me. She is done. Clint opened the briefcase, pulled out a flash drive, and laid it on the table. This is everything. Texts, GPS logs, audio, even phone recordings. You tell me if we are building a civil case or something bigger. The lawyer took it, raised an eyebrow. You planning to make this public? Not yet. I want her to think she is winning. And when she thinks that, Clint smiled. We show the world who she really is. Outside the law office, Clint looked up at the pale sky. It felt like winter was waiting for permission to drop. The wind had shifted. So had the war. Clint did not expect the ambush. Lacy had invited him to dinner. Said she wanted peace. Neutral ground. Just conversation. They met at a local bistro near downtown. Small town place, known for steaks and stiff drinks. He walked in, clean-shaven, collared shirt. She was already seated. But she was not alone. Two of her friends sat beside her, Miranda and Cheryl. Both stiff. Both watching him like he was an animal behind glass. What is this? Clint asked, standing at the edge of the table. Lacy smiled. A conversation. You said just us. I lied. Clint pulled out the chair slowly and sat down. So talk. Lacy leaned forward, chin resting on her hand. I think it is time we both admit you are not the man I married. You are right, Clint said calmly. That man is dead. You used to be strong, brave. Now you hide in silence and suspicion. You cannot even hold a job. Miranda added. Lacy says you are paranoid. Controlling. Clint nodded once. That what she told you? Cheryl leaned in. You have not been right since coming home, Clint. Maybe therapy would help. He looked at them all, one by one, then leaned forward. Do you want to see what betrayal looks like? He asked. He pulled out his phone, tapped one button. On the table, the screen lit up. A recording played, Lacy's voice, from 2:11 a.m. He knows. He showed me footage tonight. The table went silent. Clint stood up. I was never paranoid. I was watching. He walked out into the cold night, leaving the women behind, jaws dropped. Outside, he whispered to himself, let her spin that. The attic smelled like cedar and dust, his father's scent, preserved in old cardboard and silence. Clint had not been up there since before deployment. The insulation still hung loose at the corners, and the pull string for the single bulb swung like a lazy metronome. He was not looking for anything. He just needed air. A different kind of silence. But then he saw the metal lockbox shoved behind a stack of rusted fishing gear. It was old, dented, the kind of box that held secrets, not just stuff. He cracked it open. Inside, an envelope with his name on it. Clint, for when I'm gone. His chest tightened. He sat on a dusty stool, turned the envelope over in his hands, then opened it slowly. The letter was in his father's rough handwriting, uneven but bold. If you are reading this, I'm dead. You know that. I don't have a lot to say except one thing. Never let someone spit on your name and get away with it. Life's too short to roll over. But be smart. You don't need fists. You have your mind. That's the sharpest weapon we passed down. Clint's throat burned. There was no, I'm proud of you. No, I love you. But it was not his father's style. The letter was something else. Permission. He folded it carefully, tucked it into his jacket pocket, and stood up. The attic felt colder now. Still, like his father was watching him from somewhere in the quiet. Clint walked downstairs, eyes set, breath calm. She had made her move. Now it was his turn. Lacy lit the scented candles like everything was normal. She moved through the living room in a black dress that shimmered just enough to look effortless. Her hair was curled, makeup perfect. She was playing host like a woman without fear. Clint stood at the kitchen counter, sleeves rolled up, sipping water while her friends gathered with drinks and fake laughter. The party was her idea. Let's celebrate your new job, she had said days earlier. You deserve to be seen again. The lie rolled off her tongue so smoothly, Clint almost believed she cared. There was no job, no promotion, just a cover. But he had said yes, because it was the perfect opportunity to see her play her role, charming, faithful, supportive. He watched her pour wine, hug people, tell them how proud she was of her strong husband, who had been through so much. Clint's jaw tightened as she leaned into the spotlight, laughing louder than necessary, brushing his shoulder when others watched. Speech, someone called. Lacy beamed. Clint, say something. He stepped forward, slow, raised his glass. I am thankful, he said calmly. Not for the job. For clarity. For finally seeing things clearly. Lacy's smile twitched. And I'm thankful for cameras that never sleep, he added. They remember everything. Even the lies people think they can hide behind closed doors. A few confused chuckles. Lacy laughed nervously. He's joking. Clint always jokes when he's overwhelmed. He smiled. Sure. Let's call it that. He toasted and walked off. Later, in the bathroom mirror, he saw the cracks forming in her expression when no one was looking. She knew. The game had shifted. He was not bluffing anymore. The burner phone buzzed once. Clint picked it up from the glove box and answered without speaking. You were right, the voice said. It was Marcos, the ex-Intel guy. The wire transfers are real. She has been moving cash from your joint savings to a private account in her name, $2,000 at a time. Spread out. Classic laundering move. Clint gripped the steering wheel tighter. Where's the account? Bank of Louisville. Under Lacy Jean, her middle name. Dropped your last. It started 6 months ago. Total skimmed? Over $16,000. Clint's eyes stayed on the windshield. Snow had started falling again. She was not just unfaithful. She was stealing. Send me the records, Clint said. All of them. You sure you do not want to go to the bank first? No. I want her to dig a little deeper before I shut it all down. All right. One more thing, Marcos added. She's been paying for a hotel suite in town. Weekly. Under Troy's name. Clint exhaled slowly. Got the address. Just send it to your phone. He hung up. Outside, people walked past his truck with Christmas bags and winter coats, unaware of the storm about to drop. He opened his banking app. Account drained. Just enough to go unnoticed. She had planned it smart. But she had not planned for him. He sat back, thought for a moment, then smiled faintly. She had taken his money, his loyalty, his silence. Now he was going to take everything else. Clint stepped into the dimly lit community hall with a familiar stiffness in his shoulders. The room smelled like stale coffee, old wood, and shared regret. About a dozen chairs were arranged in a circle, half filled with faces etched by war and time. He nodded silently at the others, men like him. Worn, observant, dangerous in the right context. This was the Tuesday night veteran support group. To outsiders, it was a place to talk. To Clint, it was a hunting ground for clarity. Tonight, he was not here for comfort. He was here for expertise. He took a seat next to Daryl, a bearded Marine with sleeve tattoos and a knack for digital security. I need someone to trace burner phones, Clint said low enough for only him to hear. Daryl glanced sideways. Burners are tricky. Not if I have the call logs. Daryl sipped his coffee. You trying to find someone? No. I already found her, Clint replied. I want to follow the silence. What she is hiding under it. Daryl smirked. Still got that Ranger edge, huh? I just need answers. They exchanged numbers. No questions. No drama. Later that night, Clint walked back to his truck and sat with the engine off. Lacy's betrayal was not random. It was structured. She had thought long-term, separate accounts, false signatures, rehearsed lies. This was not just infidelity. It was intentional destruction. And now, he had help. The elevator door opened onto the 6th floor of a sleek office building downtown. Clint stepped into the hallway, face calm, hand steady. He walked past a receptionist without stopping. When he entered the glass-walled conference room, the man sitting inside looked up, Martin Flake. Lacy's divorce lawyer. Clint, Martin said, startled. You cannot be here without your attorney. I am not here as a client, Clint said. I am here as a man with receipts. He tossed a flash drive onto the table. Those are phone records, bank transfers, email chains, all of them linked to Lacy and you. Martin's mouth twitched. I do not know what you are suggesting. You took retainers from both sides. You let her file second even after I filed first. That makes you a liability. Clint sat down across from him. Here is the part one really hate, Clint continued. You advised her to push for full asset control, knowing she had an affair and was stealing from me. Martin tried to laugh it off. There is no proof I said that. Clint leaned forward. There is. I have your voice. He tapped his shirt pocket. The mic was live. Martin swallowed hard. You want this buried? Clint asked. Fine. Walk away from her case. Do it today, or I release everything. Martin blinked, then nodded once. That's what I thought. Clint stood, looked out over the city skyline. They had tried to trap him with paper and whispers. He had just shattered their first wall. The apartment door opened halfway before the chain stopped it. Who are you? The woman asked sharply. Clint held up both hands. Not here to cause trouble. Just want to talk. She narrowed her eyes. About what? About Troy. The chain slid back. The door opened fully. She stood in sweats, barefoot, one hand on her stomach. Pregnant. At least 7 months. I'm Anna, she said. If this is about him owing someone money, it is not, Clint said. I think you deserve the truth. She looked at him cautiously, then stepped aside. Inside, the place was modest. Framed sonogram on the mantel. A baby swing still in its box. Clint handed her his phone. Watch this. She hit play. It was footage from the open house. Lacy in Troy's lap, laughing, kissing him like no one else existed. Anna sat down slow, silent, eyes locked on the screen. When it ended, she handed the phone back with shaking fingers. I knew something was off, she whispered. He stopped staying over. Always had an excuse. I thought it was just fear. Clint nodded. He is playing both of you. Anna wiped her eyes. She knows about me? Doubt it. Lacy is not the type to share. Anna looked up. Why are you showing me this? Because you are part of this story now, Clint said. And when the truth comes out, I want it to hit hard. Her voice was bitter. I trusted him with a life. Clint stood. So did I. As he left the apartment, snow started to fall. The kind that did not melt. The kind that buried things. Clint sat in the truck with his laptop open, parked 2 blocks from home. The glow of the screen lit his face as he typed the subject line. I know what you did. You have 72 hours. He created a new email address. No name. No profile picture. He attached one photo. A clear still from the open house footage. No faces. Just Lacy's unmistakable red dress and Troy's hand placed exactly where it should not have been. He hit send. But not to Lacy. He sent it to himself. When he walked into the house 10 minutes later, Lacy was in the kitchen, cutting vegetables, playing soft jazz on her phone, wearing the smile of a woman who still thought the storm had passed. Clint poured a glass of water and checked his phone. Loud enough for her to hear. He said, What the hell? Lacy turned, knife still in hand. What? He held up his phone. I just got this. She walked over quickly, looked at the screen, froze. She read the subject line twice. Her breath caught. Who sent this? She asked. No idea, Clint said calmly. But it is real, right? Lacy backed up. Someone's trying to mess with us. Clint stared at her. Us. She stepped forward. Clint, this is not proof of anything. That could be anyone. He put the phone away. The sender gave me 72 hours. I guess we'll see what else they have. Then he walked out of the kitchen without another word. Behind him, he heard the knife hit the counter. The performance was over. Now she was scared. The backyard was filled with folding chairs, smoke from the grill, and small-town laughter. Clint had invited everyone. His mother, uncles, cousins, even Lacy's sister and her husband. It was meant to be a fresh start. A show of healing. Or so Clint said. He moved through the guests like a ghost in a crowd. Smiling. Nodding. Sipping iced tea like everything was fine. Lacy played along. Wore a bright yellow sundress. Hugged relatives. Told old stories like she belonged. At 4:15 p.m., Clint stepped inside and tapped the remote. The TV on the patio turned on. Big screen. Full volume. At first, it showed a slideshow, pictures from Clint's deployment, his squad, even his father's funeral. Then it changed. Security cam footage. Lacy and Troy. Kissing. Holding hands. Her laugh echoing across the yard. The crowd fell silent. A fork hit a plate. Lacy froze, turned toward the screen, eyes wide. "Clint, what the hell is this?" she whispered. Clint stood beside the grill, arms crossed. "Just the truth. Everyone deserves to know who is eating their ribs." No one laughed. Her sister stared at her in horror. Her uncle stepped away. Kids were ushered inside. Lacy's face crumbled. "You ambushed me?" "No," Clint said. "You did that yourself." She stormed inside, slammed the door behind her. But the damage was done. She was exposed. Not by rage. Not by revenge porn. Just truth. Clean. Undeniable. Like cold air hitting a guilty face. The video hit the internet within hours. A neighbor's teenage son had recorded the barbecue reveal on his phone and uploaded it to TikTok with the title, "Veteran Husband Exposes Cheating Wife During Family Barbecue." Watch her reaction. It hit 100,000 views by midnight. Clint watched it quietly from his truck, parked outside an old gas station. He scrolled through the comments. Bro kept it calm. Respect. She really said us like she didn't get caught. That's not a man. That's a surgical strike. Lacy, meanwhile, had locked herself in the bedroom. Clint heard her pacing, screaming into her phone. "You do not understand, Troy. It went viral. My sister blocked me. My job called me, asking if I need to step back. This is your fault." She slammed the door again. Clint leaned against the hallway wall and listened. No anger. No pity. Just silence. Later, as she came downstairs with her bags, she looked at him with mascara smudged and fire in her eyes. "I hope you are proud of yourself," she hissed. "You ruined me." Clint did not move. "No, you did that. You think this makes you a man? Embarrassing me?" "I did not embarrass you," he said flatly. "I showed them the truth. They chose how to react." She stormed out. Clint stood alone in the doorway, the winter wind cutting across the porch like a blade. He had not shouted, had not struck, but he had taken her image apart, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to fake. The knock came at 8:14 a.m. 3 short raps. Not neighborly, not polite. Clint opened the door to 2 uniformed officers and a plainclothes detective standing behind them. Snowflakes clung to their jackets. "Clint Rowley," the detective asked. "Yes. We need to speak with you. Do you know a man named Troy Kessler?" Clint's face stayed blank. "I know of him. He was reported missing late last night. His car was found abandoned behind the Old Mill Road. Doors unlocked. Phone left behind." Clint stepped aside. "Come in." The officers glanced around. One hovered near the door while the detective entered. "Your wife was involved with Mr. Kessler. We are aware of the footage posted online. Given recent events, you are obviously connected." Clint nodded. "I have not seen him. Not since the day I recorded the affair. Can anyone confirm your location last night?" "I was here. Alone." The detective studied his face, looking for something. Anger, nerves, guilt. Clint gave him nothing. "Do you have a weapon registered to this address?" the officer asked. "2," Clint replied. "Both locked. I can show you." He led them to the cabinet, opened the safe, showed them the rifles and the paperwork. Everything legal. Everything clean. "Mr. Rowley," the detective said, "this is just a routine check. But off the record, if you know anything about Troy's whereabouts, this is the time to speak up." Clint met his gaze. "I am not the one who should be worried about disappearing." They left without charging him. But the implication was clear. Someone wanted Clint to look guilty. But Troy's disappearance? That was not part of Clint's plan. The station was cold. Purposefully so. Clint sat in the metal chair, hands folded on the table, under a flickering light that had seen better years. Across from him, Detective Sanders watched him like a hawk circling a field. "No lawyer?" Sanders asked. "Not needed," Clint replied. "I did nothing." Convenient that Troy vanishes right after the footage goes viral. Clint stayed still. "You embarrassed him. Shamed your wife. Cost him his job. And now the guy disappears off the grid. I gave people the truth. I did not bury a body." Sanders leaned in. "You served in combat, right?" "I did." "You ever kill anyone?" Clint locked eyes with him. "You ever lose 3 men in your squad?" and still dragged 2 more out alive. The room quieted. I know how to fight, Clint continued. I also know how to control it. And I have had a dozen chances to take him out clean. I never did. Sanders sat back, watching. You are either the calmest innocent man I have met, or the smartest guilty one. Clint stood up. Either way, he said, you are wasting your time. On his way out, the other officers stepped aside, unsure whether to respect him or fear him. Outside, the wind hit hard. Clint took a deep breath. Something was off. Troy did not just disappear. Someone made him vanish. It was Lacy's idea, or maybe her desperation. She texted Clint 3 days after the interrogation. Let's end this. I will take a polygraph. Just tell me when. Clint agreed. They met at Marcos's security office. Neutral ground. Small room. White walls. 1 camera. No tricks. The operator explained the rules. Lacy nodded like she was still in control. The test began. Is your name Lacy Rowley? Yes. Have you ever had an affair while married to Clint Rowley? Pause. No buzzer. Red light. False. Have you ever transferred funds out of your joint account without consent? No buzzer again. Her lip twitched. Are you aware of Troy Kessler's current location? She hesitated. Blinked. No, another buzz. Clint stood behind the glass, arms folded. She was unraveling. When the test ended, she ripped off the sensors. This thing is rigged, she snapped. The operator stayed calm. It is not. Clint stepped into the room. You wanted to clear your name, he said. Now you are just confirming everything. Lacy shook her head. You are trying to destroy me. No, he said. You already did that. I am just giving you the mirror. She stormed out. Clint turned to Marcos. Send the footage to the detective. You want her arrested? No, not yet. Clint looked out the office window. Troy is missing. She lied about knowing where he is. And in Clint's gut, he felt it. She was hiding something worse than betrayal. She opened the door slowly, suspicion already in her eyes. Clint Rowley? The woman asked. Her voice was flat, guarded. Yes, he said. I think we need to talk. She stepped aside. I figured you would show up eventually. Her name was Renee. Early 30s. Smart eyes. Not the kind of woman who missed signs, just the kind who tried to forgive them. Clint sat on the edge of her leather couch while she poured coffee into 2 chipped mugs. I saw your face in that video, Renee said. The barbecue clip. Lacy looked like someone dropped a bomb in her lap. It was not for views, Clint replied. It was for truth. She slid a folder across the coffee table. Inside were photos, bank documents, a hotel reservation under her name, booked by Troy just 3 days before he disappeared. I knew something was wrong, Renee said quietly. I thought he was just cheating. But the week before he vanished, he changed. Changed how? He told me Lacy was starting to scare him. Said she kept bringing up starting over in a way that felt final. Clint leaned in. You think she did something to him? I think she was planning something, Renee said. And Troy was too dumb to realize he wasn't running the con anymore. He was part of it. Clint looked at the photos again. One detail caught his eye. A keycard, embossed with the name of a private cabin resort 2 hours north. He looked up at Renee. You still have this? She nodded. He left it in his jacket. I did not throw it away. Clint stood. Then that is where I go next. And whatever was waiting at that cabin, he would face it alone. When Clint arrived home, the lock on the front door was already broken. Just slightly. No scratches, no splinters. But the latch was cracked. He moved inside slowly, like he had during raids overseas. Drawers were open. Cabinets disturbed. His safe in the closet hung open, files gone. Flash drives. Camera cards. Printouts. All of it wiped clean. The only thing untouched. The framed flag on the mantel. Clint's jaw clenched. She had come back. Or sent someone who knew exactly what to take. He checked the laptop he kept disconnected from Wi-Fi. His clean copy of everything. It was gone too. Only one thing remained on the desk. A note. Written in all caps. Call OFF the search, or I will. No signature. No fingerprints. No threat of violence. Just precision. Clint crushed the paper in his fist. He had taken every step carefully, documented, protected, outsmarted them all. And now, they were playing his game better than him. But he was not out. He had one last copy, hidden off-site, buried in a storage locker an hour outside town. No digital connection. Old school. He grabbed his truck keys and locked the door behind him. The war had shifted again. He was no longer just exposing a betrayal. He was chasing a cover-up. The chapel was empty except for one candle left burning at the altar. Clint sat in the back pew, the wooden bench creaking under his weight. He stared at the stained glass window where light barely filtered through. He did not believe in prayer. Not anymore. But Father Kellen had served with his dad in the Gulf War. And he owed Clint nothing, except honesty. "I need to ask you something," Clint said when the old man entered. Father Kellen nodded. "Go ahead. Do you know if my father had contact with Lacy before we married? Anything strange?" The priest walked slowly down the aisle, sat beside him, hands folded. "There was a night," he said, "right before your wedding. He came to me angry, said something felt wrong. That Lacy was not who she claimed to be." Clint stared at the floor. "Did he say why?" He did not go into detail, just said she reminded him of someone he knew in the past. Someone who was good at lying with a straight face. "And you never told me this?" "You were deployed 3 days later," Father Kellen said. "I figured it would not help to shake your faith in someone you trusted." Clint nodded slowly. He was right. She lied about everything. Father Kellen put a hand on his shoulder. "Then do not let her finish what she started." Clint stood. He was not just fighting for revenge anymore. He was fighting for the pieces of his life they had tried to erase. Daryl's trailer was dark. Too dark. Clint stepped out of his truck, hand near his belt, not on a weapon, but ready for anything. The night air was bone-deep cold, no sounds but the wind brushing across the field. He knocked on the metal door. No answer. Again, harder. Then he opened it. The place was trashed. Papers shredded. Monitors broken. Coffee mug still half full on the table, like someone left mid-sentence. No sign of struggle. No blood. But it was not a robbery. It was a wipe. Whoever came knew exactly where to look. Clint moved through the clutter and spotted a single word spray-painted on the wall above the broken desk. "He's next." He stared at it. Frozen. Then he scanned the room. Found a hidden camera Daryl once bragged about mounting into the smoke detector. He pulled the card, slipped it into his pocket. Back in his truck, he inserted it into the mobile reader. It was just 15 seconds of footage. A man in a black ski mask, gloved, fast, pulling cords, moving like he had done this before. Tactical. But then something caught Clint's eye. A tattoo on the inside of the wrist, barely visible as the glove shifted. It was the shape of a spade. Black. Detailed. Military unit style. Clint knew that symbol. And it had nothing to do with Lacy. This was bigger. Someone else was watching him. And now, they were hunting. It was supposed to be a normal traffic stop. Clint had not even been speeding. The cruiser lights flashed as he pulled over, just past the edge of town, in a dead zone with no nearby stores or homes. The officer walked up slow. "License and registration," he said. Clint handed it over, calm. The officer's eyes were sharp. "Mind if I take a quick look in the vehicle?" "For what reason?" There was a report of a vehicle matching this description connected to suspicious activity. Clint narrowed his eyes. "You are going to need a warrant." The officer did not argue. He stepped back, called something in over the radio. Then another unit arrived. 2 more officers. "Step out of the vehicle," one said. Clint got out, slow. Hands visible. Still calm. They popped the glove box. And there it was. A 9mm Glock. Unregistered. One officer whistled. "Sir, is this yours?" "No," Clint said without blinking. "It was in your truck. I know what was in my truck yesterday." That was not. They cuffed him. Took him in. Sat him in a holding cell for 6 hours. But he said nothing. No panic. No fight. When the detective finally walked in, Clint asked one question. "Did you pull the prints?" The detective paused. "We did. And they are not yours." Clint nodded once. So who put it there? The detective did not answer, because the truth was already too loud. The summons arrived 2 days later, delivered by hand. Clint stood on the porch with the envelope in his palm, feeling the weight before even opening it. Superior Court. Civil hearing. Filed by Lacy Rowley. Claim: harassment, emotional abuse, property theft. He smiled without humor. Inside, he read it line by line. The language was surgical, clever half-truths masked as concern. She painted herself as a victim. Claimed Clint had used military paranoia to track her illegally, manipulate her emotionally, and even threaten her. Attached were grainy screenshots, selective text chains, none of the video footage, none of the bank theft, none of the betrayal, and at the bottom of the notice, the signature of the judge, Judge Samuel Kessler. Clint froze. Kessler, Troy's older brother. A private judge, handpicked for a civil hearing. Quiet. Controlled. It was a setup. He was being boxed in legally while someone erased the evidence on the outside. But Clint did not panic. He drove to a storage facility 2 towns over. Typed in a code. Open Unit 213. Inside was a plain black safe. He knelt down. Unlocked it. Inside, the original flash drive, untouched. Copies of every file. A sealed envelope with timestamps, sworn affidavits from Marcos, and signed documents from the day Clint filed for divorce, before Lacy ever moved a dollar. She thought she was burying him. But Clint had learned from war. You never show your full arsenal first. He locked the safe again and stood up. Court would not break him. It would make her confess. In the quiet stillness of the night, Clint sat on the edge of his bed, an old army-issue footlocker open in front of him. Most of it was military gear he had never unpacked, worn boots, a weathered Bible, an unopened MRE. But under the stack of folded shirts was a sealed envelope, creased at the corners. He had written it in Afghanistan. To Lacy. Never mailed it. Clint unfolded the letter slowly. The handwriting was rough, written by flashlight under a sky full of drones. Lacy, if I do not make it back, I want you to know that everything I did, every bullet, every order, every breath was to get home to you. But if you are reading this and I did come home, I hope you are still the woman I wrote this for. He stopped there, because that woman was gone. A ghost in lipstick and red dresses. A woman who kissed another man while Clint wrote words of love in the dirt. But something else hit him as he stared at the page. The return address. He remembered now he had sent a copy of this same letter to his unit's admin as backup. A protocol. That meant the military had a file with a timestamp proving his intent, long before Lacy filed her claims of emotional abuse. Another card to play. He folded the letter and slipped it into his jacket. Tomorrow would not be about proving her lies. It would be about proving his truth. At 4:27 a.m., Clint disabled his phone. He turned off GPS, left his truck in the parking lot of a truck stop diner, paid cash for a motel an hour outside the city, and walked in under a name no one had used in 15 years, Michael Cray, his old training alias. No cameras. No internet. No signal. For 48 hours, he vanished. It was not retreat. It was recalibration. In the room, he laid out his full case across the motel desk, timeline, evidence, printed emails, bank statements, voice notes, the letter, Marcos's signed affidavit. He mapped it like a battlefield. And in the corner of the room sat a small, battered box. Inside, a USB drive with only one file. A video Clint had never planned to use. The only footage that showed Lacy talking directly to Troy about money, manipulation, and setting Clint up. She had laughed when she said it. He still thinks I just cheated. He has no idea what we actually pulled off. Clint had kept that file locked in the most secure drive. Had promised himself he would never go that far. But now, it might be necessary. He stared at the screen. There was no more protecting her reputation. She had buried her shame and tried to plant a cross over his name. He would not stay silent anymore. 2 days later, a man checked into the Louisville courthouse under the name Cray. Tall, clean-shaven, quiet, wore a gray pea coat and a cap pulled low. No one recognized him, not even Lacy, sitting across the courtroom with her attorney. But when Clint pulled off the cap, she froze. The courtroom doors closed behind him. She leaned toward her lawyer and whispered sharply. Clint saw the tension in her shoulders shift. She had thought he would stay gone, maybe even break, or snap. Instead, he walked into the courtroom with the calm of a man who had already won. The judge, Kessler, cleared his throat. "Mr. Rowley, we were unsure if you would attend." "I never miss a final act," Clint said. Lacy's eyes narrowed. The judge continued. "We are here today to consider claims filed against Mr. Rowley regarding emotional distress, surveillance, and property interference." Clint handed over a sealed folder. "Before you proceed, I would like to submit evidence that reframes the context of this entire hearing." The judge looked annoyed. "You were told discovery was closed. It was never opened properly. This shows intent to deceive and the misuse of legal power, Your Honor, including a conflict of interest." That caught the judge off guard. "Conflict? Troy Kessler is your brother." Dead silence. Lacy's mouth opened slightly. Her attorney paled. Clint added, "And as of yesterday, Mr. Kessler is no longer missing. He is alive, but under investigation." The judge straightened. The entire room tilted. Clint was no longer the one on trial. The courtroom projector lit up. Clint's final play had begun. He had submitted a single video file as evidence. But what he did not tell them was that it had also been scheduled for online release, automatically, if he failed to check in on a private link. Insurance. The screen showed Lacy, seated across from Troy at a cafe. The recording was grainy but clear. Her voice cut through. "Clint is so damn predictable. You cry enough, play the PTSD card, the court will side with me. And once I drain the account, I am done." Gasps echoed in the courtroom. The judge raised his hand. "Silence, or I will clear the gallery." The footage continued. Lacy laughing, talking about assets, about how staging fear always worked. She never noticed the camera hidden in the flower pot inches from her. When the video ended, Clint turned to the judge. "I never threatened her. I never touched her. I gave her every chance to walk away. She turned it into war." The judge looked stunned. This changes the direction of everything." Lacy shot up from her seat. "He edited that. He has been following me. He's crazy." But her voice was thin, shaky. No one was buying it anymore. Even her attorney slowly stepped away from her table, hands slightly raised. Clint sat down, arms folded. "I told the truth," he said. "She just made it louder." The projector screen stayed black for 2 seconds. Then the timeline began. Marcos had crafted it like a digital war map. A moving trail of dates, screenshots, GPS markers, bank transfers, and video stills. All connected. June 14th, first hotel meeting. June 20th, first $2,000 transfer. July 5th, Clint's deployment letter returned, unopened. July 19th, Troy's account activity spikes. August 3rd, private meeting with Lacy's divorce lawyer. August 10th, lie detector arranged. Fails. September 1st, Clint files first. Silently. Everything shown. No gaps. No gray areas. Just the slow betrayal, stacked piece by piece. The room was silent except for the quiet clicks of each slide. Lacy sat frozen, eyes wide, mascara cracking at the corners. Her hands trembled in her lap, no longer clutching anything. Her attorney sat back, not even bothering to interrupt. When the timeline ended, Clint stood. "Every file has a signature. Every lie has a location. I did not just bring proof. I brought her pattern." Judge Kessler cleared his throat. For the first time, he looked rattled. "I will be forwarding this case to the State Review Board. Any further rulings from this court are suspended pending investigation." Clint nodded, calm. Lacy turned to him then, mouth open, words dying on her tongue. She had nothing left to say. He walked past her, slow. She whispered, "You think this means you win?" Clint stopped. "I do not need to win," he said. "I just needed the truth to stop hiding." The hallway outside the courtroom was packed, media, courthouse staff, strangers with phones. Clint stepped through them like smoke through a breeze, head high. I steady. The cameras followed. Microphones were shoved in his face. Clint, do you plan to press charges? Was this premeditated revenge? Did you really set her up from the beginning? He paused at the courthouse steps, turned to face them. I came home from war hoping to build a life, Clint said, voice firm but even. Instead, I walked into another battlefield. Flashbulbs popped. Reporters leaned in. I did not chase revenge. I chased the truth. I let the facts speak. And the people who watched this unfold? They made their choice. One reporter pushed through. Do you have anything to say to Lacy? Clint looked past the cameras. She used my silence like a weapon. She mistook calm for weakness. But sometimes the loudest message comes from not lifting a finger. The crowd hushed. Someone lowered their phone. He walked away without saying another word. It was not a victory speech. It was a funeral for her lies. The headlines rolled in faster than she could scroll. Viral betrayal. Husband outs cheating wife in courtroom bombshell. Lacy rally timeline reveals web of financial fraud, affair, and perjury. Civil court freeze sparks criminal probe. Lacy threw her phone across the hotel room. She had checked in under a fake name. Used a burner card. Thought she could vanish for a few days. Plan her next move. But the walls were closing. Her bank account, frozen. Her job, suspended pending review. Her attorney, dropped her. She packed quickly, shaking, shoved cash into her purse, passport into her coat. Every movement frantic. Downstairs, she asked for a cab. The lobby clerk looked at her with hesitation. We just got a call for you, he said quietly. What? From a detective Sanders. He said to tell you this. No matter where you run, your fingerprints came too. Lacy stood there, stunned. She knew then. They had her on the gun. She had tried to bury Clint with false claims, with setups, with fear. But she had dropped too many pieces along the way. Now they were closing in, and she was out of time. The call came at 3:38 a.m. Clint answered on the first ring. Rally, the voice said. It was Sanders. We found him. Troy's body had surfaced in a drainage culvert 15 miles from town. Stripped of ID, but with fingerprints still intact. Cold case no more. Cause of death, blunt trauma to the skull. Time of death, 2 days after the viral footage went live. Clint's voice stayed flat. Where? In the woods behind Lacy's sister's cabin. Private property. But guess what we found nearby? Clint waited. A burner phone. Smashed. And a receipt for gasoline with a partial thumbprint. Sanders paused, voice lower now. Clint, it is not just a cheating case anymore. It is a homicide investigation now. Am I still a suspect? Clint asked calmly. Not anymore. Clint hung up and stared at the ceiling for a long time. He did not feel relieved. He felt done. The storm had passed, and everything Lacy buried to protect her lie had finally dug her own grave. Clint sat across from Detective Sanders in the dim light of the interview room, not as a suspect, but as a witness now. Sanders placed the evidence folder between them. We ran the prints on the gas station receipt. It is Lacy's. No doubt. Clint stayed quiet. But that is not the twist, Sanders continued. The body? Troy was already concussed before he was dumped. And guess who visited the same clinic under a fake name the day after? He dropped a file in front of Clint. Marcus Glenn, former military contractor, dishonorably discharged. Lacy's second contact. Who was he to her? Clint asked. Boyfriend. Before you. She paid him under the table to do security work. We pulled his background. He vanished right after Troy did. He is the one who cleaned the digital trail. But he left one thing behind. An old video with both of them arguing in her car. Clint leaned forward. In the footage, Lacy's voice was sharp, desperate. I told you not to kill him, just scare him. Are you trying to ruin everything? And that was it. A confession. Not full, but enough. Clint sat back, hands folded. I told you, he said softly. I never needed revenge. Sanders nodded slowly. You just had to outlast the fire. And now, Lacy's lies were not just unraveling. They were indictable. The news broke like a crack across town. Local veteran cleared in viral divorce scandal. New evidence links affair and homicide to woman's secret life. Clint did not speak to the media. He did not attend interviews. He did not post a single thing online. But the world spoke for him. Veterans groups reached out. His story was shared in mental health forums. A video titled "Clint Rowley, the Calm That Crushed Lies" hit 1 million views. People did not call him a victim. They called him controlled, dangerous, noble. The town's tone shifted. The same neighbors who once whispered behind his back now nodded with respect. Strangers bought his coffee at the diner. Even kids waved when he drove by. But Clint did not change pace. He just got quieter, more focused. He sold the house, moved into his father's cabin, cleared out every trace of Lacy's existence. No trophies, no anger, no pity, just tools, firewood, clean air. One night, he stood by the lake near the back trail and looked up. The stars were out, the kind of clear sky only silence could earn. Lacy was arrested 2 weeks later in a gas station bathroom, wearing a wig, using a fake ID. The footage of her breakdown at the time of arrest hit every news site. Screaming, crying, hands cuffed behind her back as she accused Clint of setting her up. But no one believed her anymore. In court, she faced charges for fraud, perjury, evidence tampering, obstruction, conspiracy to commit assault, and complicity in Troy's death. Her bail was denied. The media dubbed her the Mirror Widow, a woman who used love as camouflage, guilt as her defense, and manipulation as a career. Her sister released a statement disowning her. Even her mother, once her loudest supporter, said 4 words to the press: "He warned us all." And Clint? He never looked back. He did not need to. Karma had arrived. And this time, it filed paperwork. Clint knelt at the foot of his father's grave. Not in uniform, not in grief, just as a man. The grass had grown back since the funeral. The stone was clean. The words carved into it still sharp. James Rowley, he endured. Clint reached into his jacket and pulled out the flag, the one he had carried since that day. Folded, tight, like a burden finally ready to be laid down. He placed it on the headstone. No words, just the wind, just breath. He stayed there for a while. Let the silence speak. He thought about everything: the betrayal, the traps, the cameras, the courtroom, the nights he could have broken but never did. And how his father once told him, when they call you a failure, make sure they say it from the ground. Clint stood up, nodded once, and walked away from the grave with nothing left behind but peace. The message had been buried deep in an old voicemail inbox Clint had almost forgotten. He only found it because he switched phones and transferred everything over. The audio file was marked as unheard, dated 4 days before his father's death. Clint sat on the porch of the cabin, winter sun soft on his face, snow melting in quiet drips from the roof. He hit play. "Clint, it's me. I do not know how to say this the right way, so I will just say it. I saw how Lacy looks at you when you are not looking, and I know you feel it too. You are not a failure. You were never a failure. You came back from war, and you still carry yourself like a soldier. Calm, strong. I do not always say it, but I respect the hell out of you." Clint blinked slowly. The message continued. "If you ever feel like giving up, just remember, they only attack the ones they fear the most. You are the most dangerous kind of man, son, the one who never has to raise his voice." The message ended. Clint closed his eyes. For the first time in a long time, there was no storm inside him, just stillness. And in that stillness, he felt something he had not in months: freedom. The sawdust clung to Clint's boots as he moved across the open frame of the cabin in progress. It was not just for him. It was part of a project he had started, building transitional homes for veterans starting over. Quiet land, clean air, simple needs. Word had spread about what he had been through, but no one treated him like a story anymore. They treated him like a man who refused to break. As he drove the final nail into the beam, he stood back and looked at the foundation. It was not just wood and steel. It was proof proof that destruction does not get the last word. That survival, when done right, is not about noise. It is about what you rebuild when the ashes settle. He wiped sweat from his brow, looked out at the treeline, and whispered, "You are not coming back, Lacy. Not in memory, not in scars, not in anything that still held power." She was gone. And Clint? He had never been more alive. The sun was setting as Clint sat near the fire pit behind the cabin, coffee in hand, dog at his feet, and silence stretched across the trees. He scrolled through the last article about the trial. Lacy had taken a plea. 10 years. No parole. No media interviews allowed. The world had moved on. And so had he. As the flames danced, Clint thought about everything. The betrayal, the plan, the lies, and the truth that refused to stay buried. He had exposed her. But more than that, he had survived her. Without violence. Without vengeance. Just with truth, patience, and timing. Someone once asked him, "How did you stay so calm?" He had only one answer. Because the strongest revenge is never lifting a finger. It is letting the world do the math. He stood, stretched, and looked out across the quiet woods. Then he turned toward the camera with one final question. What would you have done if it were you? Tell me in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let me know below. And hey, if this story hit you deep, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to remember. Sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is the one who says nothing until the end. We will meet again soon, in another epic thriller, another war, another revenge. Until then, take care, stay sharp, and remember, silence is not weakness. It is the warning